Welcome back to another daily sales briefing, Selling in a Crisis. My name is Jeb Blunt. I'm the CEO of Sales Gravy, the author of Fanatical Prospecting, Sales EQ, Objections, and my brand new book, Inked. And look for my new book, Virtual Selling, coming to bookstores very soon. Today's topic is this may or may not be a very good selling background. And I want to throw their logo up, or I want to move through some different visuals. In another virtual calling set, I have behind me a TV and a whiteboard. And what I use the whiteboard for is when I'm working with customers on virtual sales calls and we're brainstorming or we're collaborating on something or they're walking me through their issues on a discovery call, I'll just turn around and I'll start writing their ideas on. They can see that I'm tangibly writing down what they're telling me, so it makes it feel like I'm listening to them. So the backdrop that you choose. Now, let's talk about a couple of things that you shouldn't choose. So, one thing is a bright window. Never put a bright window behind you. If you have a bright window behind you, you're going to get, which means protection, and that's what we call that look. It's the witness protection look. So you want to avoid that or any bright lights behind you. And if you do have windows behind you, use shades to manage the light so you don't have any deep glares. The next thing you want to avoid is anything that's cluttered and junked up and, old coffee cups or anything like that, an old coffee table or, your kitchen or anything like that. Get rid of all those things. You don't want any of that behind you. You also want to avoid big spaces, like a big void behind you. So if you've got a big family room and let's say you're set up on a chair or a couch in your family room and looking behind you, there's this deep space. What happens to the eyes is I lose my focus on you and I start looking at the room. Plus, those deep spaces are not really, really good for sound because you're bouncing off the walls. And you also want to avoid white plain walls or white beige walls because they're just boring and there's nothing there. The best sets are bookcases. So I love bookcases. I love white bookcases in particular that have the books arranged in different ways. And one of the really cool things you can do with a bookcase is you can arrange the spines so you have some spines out. You can arrange them so that you have some of the book fronts out and you can stack those up. So you can create a different pattern behind you that keeps the focus on you but is interesting enough to make it look really good. You can also put good pictures behind you, or if you are on a plain wall, like a plain beige wall or white wall, get a good logo, your company's logo, have it printed at a sign company, and then you can put it on the wall behind you, or if you have some good pictures behind you. Just make sure you don't have anything controversial, anything that could be even thought of as controversial, and make a social statement. If you don't have bookcases, another thing that works really well is a nice credenza. And what I mean by a credenza, it'd be a desk about so high, and then you'd have a TV on top of that. I love a TV on a credenza. If you ever watch Mark Hunter in any of his videos, he uses this type of a set because it allows him to have the TV behind him so he can change his logos or his graphics or put different slides up. And it looks really set. So you can get a set that is a set that you buy at a printing company or a company that sells trade show sets. One of those stand and repeats like you see in a press conference. And you can put one of those behind you. That's my favorite kind in our set across the hall from me. That's what we have. We have a massive one, 16 feet wide. And it's on the wall. The wall's made of carpet, so we have it hooked on the wall with Velcro. So that's hooked up. And it's amazing because it always looks good. It's always professional. And the nice thing about those type of sets is they're mobile. So if you have to move someplace else, you just fold it all up, take it someplace else, set it up. That's a really nice background. Finally, there's background replacement. So a lot of the video conferencing platforms out there, Zoom in particular, allow that's behind you. Now, a couple of things about that. If you do it, don't put the beach behind you. Don't put a bunch of trees behind you. Don't put whatever their stock photos are behind you. go to a tool like Canva.com. Canva's a free tool, and there's some tools you can pay for where they'll put together a conference room and put your logo on it. But go to Canva and grab a picture, and you can get all kinds of pictures from stock photos, or you can get conference room photos, and they have stock photos on Canva. Put your logo in there, and I've got a couple of those scenes that I use when I'm doing background replacement. Pop that in, and suddenly you've got a really nice background behind you. Now, with background replacement, you want to make sure that you check in advance, check your lights, and you see me moving because I'm making hand gestures. I talk with my hands. Still make hand gestures, but you do it a lot slower so it doesn't break the background. Now, for you and in the camera, once you get your backdrop set up, you want to make sure that you are standing up, and I mean this with like all of the sinews in my body. Sitting down, because when you sit down, you hunch over. You have a tendency to look down. It doesn't make you look like you're energized. When you're standing up, you feel good, you're energized, and you look super professional. So make sure you're standing up, and make sure when you're standing up, just as you can see me here, you can see torso up so people can see your hands. Hands are a great big piece of your body language, and you want to make sure that you're centered in the camera exactly like you would be as if you were a newscaster. Now, in the event that you have a TV behind you, like on a credenza or something like that, you might want to move off to the side. This is called rule of thirds, and you see this a lot in documentaries. So if I'm in the rule of thirds, I have this behind me, so I use this, and then I'm still talking directly into the camera and making eye contact with the camera. And if you do those things, it's really going to separate you, because 90% of the salespeople out there have got their laptop plopped up on their lap, and they're looking down into the camera, and it looks terrible, and they got terrible backdrops. In a lot of cases, you can see their ceiling because they're looking so far down, and it really doesn't differentiate them. And if you do this, it will differentiate you. It will make you so much better on video, and you will begin closing more deals faster. That is today's daily sales briefing. It doesn't look like we have any questions. I'll see you back here Monday at noon.